The relationship we have with money is much deeper than we usually realize. It's not just about bills to pay or how much we earn every month. Money is often tied to emotions, memories, experiences that we might not even consciously remember. For many of us, money carries a heavy emotional burden, fears, insecurities, sometimes even real trauma. And this can sabotage everything we do to improve our financial life, often without us even noticing. When I talk about trauma, I'm not just referring to big dramatic events. Often it's the small things, the seemingly harmless moments, that leave a deep mark. For example, I remember when I was a kid and I heard my parents arguing about money. That tension, that fear that something was always missing, unconsciously taught me that money was something to fear, to avoid, almost like an invisible enemy. How many times have you given up on something you really wanted just because something inside you held you back? Maybe you sabotaged a great job opportunity or wasted money unknowingly out of fear of making the right move. This is exactly the kind of sabotage that comes from emotional trauma linked to money. The good news is, this pattern can change. It's not a life sentence. Actually, recognizing that money has become a symbol of trauma for us is the first step to freeing ourselves from it. It's like when you realize that an old pain is holding you back. The moment you see it for what it really is, you start dismantling it piece by piece. What I want to say is, you don't need a full bank account to feel free or have a healthy relationship with money. Often, people who have a lot of money still feel insecure or anxious because they never address these deep blocks inside themselves. In my personal journey, I discovered that working on your relationship with money means learning to look inside yourself, to listen to that voice that says, "I will never make it," or "I don't deserve to succeed." Those are the phrases we must stop believing. At this early stage, it's important to ask yourself honest questions without judgment. Where does this fear of money come from? What messages did I get as a child? How can I start to reframe them? These reflections are the key to opening a new door, one where money stops being a problem and becomes a tool of freedom and opportunity. Once we recognize that money can be tied to trauma or emotional blocks, the challenge is to figure out how to act concretely to transform this negative energy into something positive. For me, it was crucial to change the language I use with myself when I talk about money. Here's a simple example. How many times do we say phrases like, "I can't afford it," "I'm not good with money," or "that's not for me"? These words are like seeds we plant in our minds, growing into limiting beliefs. And when you truly believe these phrases, you behave in ways that confirm what you think. It's a vicious circle. I started replacing these negative phrases with more empowering ones. They might sound simple, but over time, they change everything. For instance, instead of saying, "I can't afford it," I told myself, "I am learning to manage my resources better." Instead of, "I'm not good with money," I chose, "Every day I become more aware of my choices." Another turning point for me was learning to distinguish between needs and wants, between fear and reality. Often our brain confuses these and makes us act out of fear of losing something, rather than out of desire to build something beautiful. Let me tell you something that happened to me. I often postponed important decisions because I was afraid of making mistakes, but this led to missed opportunities and frustration. When I learned to recognize this fear, I decided to act anyway, even if I wasn't perfect. I understood that making mistakes is part of the journey, and every mistake is a valuable lesson. Finally, I discovered the power of gratitude. When you start to look at what you have with gratitude, money takes on a different meaning. It's no longer just a tool to pay bills, but a tangible sign of your value and your successes, even the small ones. So, instead of focusing on what you lack or what you fear, try thinking about everything you've already built. Even if they are small steps, they are the ground on which to grow a new relationship with money, free from blocks and fears. Changing your mindset is not an immediate leap, but a journey that requires patience and consistency. I myself had moments of doubt and temptation to fall back into old habits, but every time I paused and reflected, I realized the path was different. and it was worth continuing to change. Now let's get into the practical part, the one that really changes things. I want to share some habits I developed to stop sabotaging myself with money and start building a new, healthy, positive relationship with it. First of all, keep a spending journal. It sounds simple, but writing down every single expense helps you become aware of where your money goes. You'd be surprised how often we spend without noticing, just out of habit or distraction. Knowing the numbers is the first step to feeling in control. Next, set a small financial goal every week or month. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be saving a certain amount or learning something new about money management. These small achievements give you ongoing satisfaction and help keep your motivation high. Another thing that made a big difference for me was learning to say no. Yes, because often we sabotage ourselves by saying yes to everything, even to expenses we don't really want, just out of fear of disappointing others or trying to keep up with a lifestyle that isn't ours. Learning to say no, gently but firmly, puts you at the center of your choices. Finally, surround yourself with positive people who have a growth mindset. Our minds are shaped also by the people we spend time with. If you surround yourself with those who support you, inspire you, and share healthy values about money, it will be easier to maintain this new attitude. Remember, stopping self-sabotage doesn't mean becoming obsessed with money or giving up a good life. It means having control, choosing consciously, and building a life where money is an ally, not a source of stress. If you found this content helpful, I ask you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming videos where we will explore more tools and strategies for your financial growth. The journey toward economic freedom is a path, and I am here to guide you every day. Thank you for listening. See you soon.